Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to MedResults Network Educational Webinar Series. I'm Jamie Parrott, Vice President and Chief Operating Officer for MedResults Network, and I just want to thank you all for taking time to join us for today's presentation. Before we begin today's webinar, I want to say welcome back to everyone as we took a little bit of a hiatus for our webinar series this summer. And I also want to share a recap of some of our network updates, including some new partnerships, new rebate programs that we announced this summer, and some upcoming events that you might have missed over the last month. First, in the last 60 days, we launched our first MedResults Network Medical Malpractice Insurance Program through our new partners, the NorCal Group. So if you're looking for better coverage or access to free CMEs or additional education, or you're just simply exploring a new policy, we hope you'll contact us to put you in touch with NorCal for a free quote. In the last 60 days, we also announced 2 revised rebate programs with PCA Skin and MERS Aesthetics, and both programs have been redesigned to help you earn more as you grow with both MedResults and, of course, our partners. So for details about either of those programs, you can contact us directly. And then finally, we have some very exciting news. Starting September 14th in Troy, Michigan, we're going to be launching our MedResults Network Dinner Series with our partners at Vivive. So over the course of September and October, we're actually going to be hosting 14 dinners across the country and inviting special guest physicians to speak at each of our dinners about advances in vaginal rejuvenation with Vivive. So those invitations for our first dinner will be going out next week, and then we're going to be sending out a link to everyone to RSVP to attend the dinner in your area very soon. So keep your eyes peeled for this, or shoot me a message if you'd like to attend. And speaking of Vivive and the developers of Genevieve, which is a women's health device, we're finding that while many of our members are really comfortable speaking to patients about cash-based treatments, some of our members who are just entering the aesthetic space are still navigating how to talk about aesthetic treatments and have the delicate conversation about money. So for that reason, we've invited back our partner and very special guest, Jay Shorr of Shorr Solutions, to speak with us today about talking money in a medical practice and adding elective treatments to typically insurance-based practices. Jay's been a presenter for quite a few of our MedResults Network educational webinars, and he's the founder and managing partner of Shorr Solutions, which is a top-flight medical practice consulting firm. Jay has served as the VP of Operations and was a practice administrator for a leading board-certified dermatologist and cosmetic surgeon in South Florida until 2012. He's also held partnerships in 2 leading South Florida plastic surgery centers in the past. And Jay's a very accomplished professional speaker, and he's presented for nearly a dozen industry organizations. And as I mentioned during one of our last presentations, he actually works with his daughter, Mara Shorr, and together they've been a major asset to both the network and many of our members. So I'm delighted to welcome Jay back. And during the presentation, if you have a question or comment for Jay, we are going to try a little Q&A at the end of the presentation, or you can simply wait for the webinar to close and you'll receive that short pop-up survey, which is another option for you to ask that question. So please remember to fill out that survey. It does help us with valuable feedback so we can continue to provide topics that you want to hear about in future presentations. So with that said, I will turn it over to Jay Shorr of Shorr Solutions.
Well, thank you, Jamie. It is a pleasure once again to be a part of the MedResult Network webinar series. And this is a presentation that is very near and dear to me. We do present this at a multitude of industry-related conferences because it used to be that at one point in time, only dermatologists, cosmetic or plastic surgeons entered into the fee-for-service aesthetic cosmetic treatment market. And that's not really true anymore because a lot of things have changed, which we'll speak about in the health insurance regulatory concerns, and many of the doctors, depending upon what specialty you may have had, whether it's allopathic, osteopathic, even naturopathic, and we're going to get into who and what type of providers are entering this space for elective treatments. To recap, my name is Jay Shorr. I am the managing partner of Shorr Solutions, and we specialize with practices in the dermatology, aesthetic, cosmetic, plastic surgery industry, med spas, and dental. And we really work with practices on their operational, administrative, financial health to improve their efficiencies, because many of them are still insurance-based practices of some form. They're non-core physicians and practitioners, and we'll get into the definition of what non-core is. It's not as an insult, it's just not the core initial aesthetic treatment professionals that we were used to. Let's try to explain, first of all, what is medicine? And medicine is a science. It's the science of the human body, anatomy, and physiology. It's a way to heal the sick and injured in our insurance-based practices, because we are dealing with sick and injured people. And in the aesthetic cosmetic marketplace, it's a way to keep our patients looking young, beautiful. It's one of the most important and respected professions today. You always hear, my son is a doctor, my daughter is a doctor. It's one of the most respected professions because of the amount of education that a physician has to go through in order to reach their goal and their dream. You have to go to college, then you have to put 4 years of medical school. You may do a 1-year internship, a 3-year residency, a 5-year residency, and then you come out and you have to determine what it is that you're going to want to do and what you're going to want to specialize. But most importantly, what they don't teach you in all of these 12 to 15 years of this wonderful scientific education is what to do when you want to open up a business. Because medicine truly is a business, and it must, I'll repeat, it must be treated like the business that it is. Now, let's speak about President Care and Health Reform. And I'm not going to get into whether it is Trump Care or whether it's Obamacare, Bush Care, George Washington Care. It really doesn't matter for political purposes. What is important, that it is governmental health care reform, bipartisan. So we're not going to get into the debate of whether it should or it shouldn't be, or repealed, replaced, whatever. But with changes over the past decade and even longer, with insurance and government medical programs, third-party payers, we all know that reimbursements have been drastically declining, and it makes it much harder for you as medical professionals and providers to increase your income while still providing attentive quality care. One of the reasons that we as a consulting company don't deal with a medical practice that deals strictly with insurance and doesn't have any aspiration to get into the fee-for-service is because you can increase the amount of patients that you have and still have less profit because of the declining insurance care reimbursement. So what's happened? Many of the doctors, mid-level practitioners, have decided that they want to have elective services. An elective fee-for-service are those things that are not covered by any governmental or third-party payer insurance companies. And this way, when the doctor performs the service or the mid-level provider performs the service, they are paid at the time that the service is performed. Now, with that being said, it's time to look at what options are available both on the surgical and non-surgical side. Because if you are a non-core physician and you've never really had any real surgical training, and understand my definition of real surgical training, by no means do I ever mean to insult anybody, but real surgical training is when you come out of your med school and you want to do a residency in surgery before you become a plastic surgeon, before you become boarded by the American Board of Surgery. You would have to put a 5-year residency in and then possibly go into your second board certification, which could be oromaxillofacial, maxillofacial, it could be orthopedics, it could be plastic, it could be any of those. And that's what my definition of real surgery is. And then there are other types of surgeries. There's dermatologic surgery, which can also be non-insured, and then there's the non-surgical services. And they are what we are most used to in a medical practice of non-core physicians and medi-spas. Now, on injectables, we try and bifurcate that into two different specialists. One, neuromodulators, and I'm going to name them all so that I don't have to be tied down to one specific vendor. And by the neuromodulator, we're speaking about Botox, we're speaking about Dysport, we're speaking about Xeomin. All three of those types of neuromodulators. And then there's the dermal fillers, and we all know what they are. Whether it's the dermal fillers or the volumizers, these are the different types of injectables. And then you have weight loss. And our weight loss can be done through either PO, which is the HCG. It could be done by the phentermine, which is also a PO medication. Now, HCG can be done in the form of injection as well. And then there are the other machines that have come out most recently, whether it's through heat sensitive or cryolipolysis. And that is CoolSculpting, Shorr, and some of the other ones that have come out. And as Jamie just recently mentioned, what has been very big in the last 5 years is the onset of vaginal rejuvenation. Now, whether it's done with a cold blade or whether it's done with a device, whether it's done by radio frequency, whether it's done by CO2, we're not going to get into which is good, better, or best. This is just another type of modality into the non-surgical market that allows you to enter into that space. So who do you look for when you want to enter that space? Well, you can consider either doing it yourself or adding another practitioner, whether it is a physician or a mid-level provider, meaning a nurse practitioner or a physician's assistant, because they're going to help with the increase in the patient load that you're going to have, as well as your current insurance-based patients who are going to want these aesthetic services. If you are already an insurance-based practice, well, now that you already have a base of patients that you can attract and that you can market to. But you may be so busy, you may not be able to perform all of the different aesthetic services that you want to venture into by yourself unless you hire somebody to perform the insurance-related services and you do the aesthetic, or you hire a mid-level or a secondary provider. So once again, that could be the physician or the mid-level provider or an ancillary provider like an esthetician, where in certain states they can perform lasers, they can perform radio frequencies. And what's right for one office may not necessarily be right for another, even in the same demographic area. Now, I really want, for 1 second, to caution you on making sure that you understand what procedures you're allowed to perform in the state where you practice. What is legal in one state may not be legal in another. There's a real touchy one in Illinois, for example. In Illinois, an esthetician may not perform services that are not governed under the Board of Cosmetology, but a medical assistant can under the direction of the doctor. However, if the esthetician takes off his or her name badge and then walks into the room and introduces he or herself as not as an esthetician, but as a medical assistant, they can perform those services. Here in Florida, where I reside and practice, we're not allowed to have anybody but a mid-level or a physician do lasers or Botox, except for hair removal, which can be done by an electrologist with an excessive amount of hours of training in that. So remember, what's right for one office may not necessarily be right for the other. So what do you look for when you're looking to have a provider? Well, naturally, they have to have good credentials and qualifications. And those credentials and qualifications may have been received from either going to some extensive courses or just plain experience having done it at another practice. You want to make sure that they have a good educational background and they've researched it. And if they're board certified and you're going to market that, if that is a deal breaker, many times people only want to hire people that are board certified. Now, be careful if you're looking for board certifications from a physician that they are boarded. If you're going to market them as boarded by the American Board of Medical Specialties. That's what ABMS stands for. If they're not, that's okay too, but please do not market them as board certified unless your state has some type of notification that they don't have to be recognized by the American Board of Medical Specialties. Many states do, and they prohibit you from marketing a board certified doctor that's certified by a non-ABMS board. I'm not going to get into those now. Have they completed a fellowship that's aligned to the specialty? And these fellowships are done either by plastic surgeons, by facial plastic surgeons, or by laser specialists. And they have a different fellowship that was strictly designed, or cosmetic surgery, for the procedures that they're going to perform. And then there's specific personality traits. You know, bedside manner is very, very important, from an esthetician to a mid-level provider, all the way through the physician. And when I refer to a mid-level provider, it is not meant to be insulting if you're a nurse practitioner and you feel that a mid-level provider or a secondary provider, it's just a term that's being used outside of physicians. So what else do you look for? You want to make sure that they have a good reputation in the community and there are not any outstanding lawsuits, because today, with the onset of the internet, patients have accessibility to be able to read the opinions, what's out there on Yelp, what's out there on RealSelf, comments, complaints. Do they have good bedside manner with the patient? Have your patients told you that they do or they don't? And why are they looking to partner with you? Is it because they've already had a practice and they don't want to run a business, or they want to partner with you because they're looking for a track that they could potentially have a great income, maybe have a track to a partnership, or maybe as you exit and have a succession planning to exit, they may have the opportunity to purchase your practice. Referrals, is it done through co-marketing with other practices? And what will you have that the provider can do? Is it non-surgical, or are they a surgeon as well and you can share all the different procedures because you're just too busy? Are there specific requests or family needs that you have to be aware of when you're hiring these people? Now, we all know hiring staff is one of the most difficult things that we can do. But when we get a good one, we don't want to let them get by us. So we have to be very sensitive to whatever specific family needs that these mid-level ancillary or even physician providers have, whether they have to go part-time, whether they have children that they have to take care of, whether there are daycare needs. So we have to be careful about that. Now, when you enter into the aesthetic cosmetic market, I've heard from people that are strictly insurance-related practices that this really doesn't matter, but it does. Because you've heard the age-old expression that you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And patients that aren't coming to you anymore because you don't take their insurance, they expect boutique service. And if you think that patients will come to you without insurance, that you used to take their insurance and you don't, it might happen. Just see what happens once you no longer take their insurance and they need to see a provider. They'll go to wherever their insurance allows them to go. Unfortunately, in the boutique type of a service, it's not like a manicure pedicure technician or a hairdresser, where a lot of people will follow the technician and not necessarily stay with the provider's business operation. They'll follow the technician. And it's not a whole lot different in our business anymore, because when you enter the aesthetic cosmetic service, they expect boutique service. So change the way that your staff answers the phone. People have to hear a smile. When we do mystery shopping calls for our clients, we find that there's all kinds of operational advancement and changes that needed to be done. And we do several calls in a month period. We do the write-up, and you'd be shocked at some of the things that you might hear. So now, which additional services should you consider? And what role changes need to be changed in your office? Well, you may all have an idea of what services you want to do. So what's the going rate for the procedure? If you're in an area like Beverly Hills, understand you may not be able to get the price of somewhere in Iowa or Montana. So what is the going rate for the procedure? And understand that there may be prices that you have to adjust for, because not all of the equipment anymore just comes with the laser or the box that you're going to buy. Many times they're less expensive because there's consumables involved, and you have to count that price of that consumable. Does it make sense? Do you have the patient base to support it? Because some of these machines are not $20,000 and $30,000. They're anywhere between $100,000 and $2,000. You better have the patient base to support it, because it's the gross revenue minus the cost of the goods sold or the consumable, which yields your gross profit. Then you have all your other operational costs that you have to do, and your variable costs that lead you to what your profit might be, and then you have to pay the provider. So which of your practitioners are able to treat the patients with the equipment that you have? Remember what I said. Check with your state regulatory body, because in certain states, certain technicians are not allowed to perform those procedures. And then, how much pain or discomfort is associated with the treatment? Because the number one reason that a patient may not want to come back to have a secondary treatment is because of the pain or discomfort that was associated with it. They may have gotten by on that initial treatment, but man, it wasn't fun, and they don't want to come back for a second one. What is your practice's need for the piece of equipment? Have your patients been telling you that they want this? Has there been a buzz in the marketplace? Have people like the Kardashians and people like all of these other key opinion leaders that are celebrities and not necessarily famous people of actors and actresses, but celebrities that have a voice in the industry, are they creating a buzz for it? And who else is offering it in your area in the country? Do you always want to be the first one in your area to get it? Well, you can command a higher price if you are, but it may not be as great of a piece of equipment as it was touted to be. Remember, the salespeople and the hype regarding this equipment, although it might be a great piece of equipment, are not going to show you any of the befores and afters that really didn't have great results. And they're also going to try to sell you the equipment as quickly as possible, because they're on a commission base. And lastly, as you have seen in this arena, when they have an upgrade, when you buy this, does it include the upgrade, or do you have to trade it in and get pennies on the dollar for the upgrade, or does it include an upgrade? How long's it been on the market? And lastly, is it safe and effective? Are they FDA approved? Many things are off-label, and you have to be able to explain this to the patient, that you may want to use it for a different type of a treatment, and it's off-label. It was only FDA approved, similar to that of our neuromodulators from years past. They were only approved for the glabella area. Those are the 11 and 111 lines between your eyeballs. But we also used it on the lateral side of the eyes for the crow's feet. We used it on the forehead for the frontalis, but it was legal because it was FDA approved, but it was off label. And you have to be able to share that with your patient that it is FDA approved, however, it is off label. When you're going into the aesthetic market, are you getting the best prices for things, or are you just winging it? Or worst of all, are you allowing somebody in your office to make those decisions for you? Ladies and gentlemen, this is probably the biggest fault that many of the practices that we work with do. You've had somebody in your office and they've been there forever, so you call them the office manager. They may not be the most qualified. And yet when we come in and we try to get cost reduction for a lot of your supplies, your consumables, your disposables, and even your capital equipment, the people that are in charge of this say, no, we get the best prices, similar to that of credit cards and financing. Every day I hear we've got the best pricing. But as an affiliate partner with MedResults, the one thing we have been able to do successfully is enroll literally several hundred clients into the MedResult Network organization over the last couple of years and have the ability to increase their rebates and discounts on products that they never thought they would be able to. Whether it's consumables, disposables, whether it's capital equipment, whether it is on waste disposal, or whether it is on increasing your rebates from your MERS products or your PCA. And I'm going to use that because they are part of the MedResult network. If you don't take advantage of a group purchasing organization or a buyer's group like MedResult Network, you're really missing the boat. It's free, and this is not a plug for MedResults, but it is only because I have seen successfully how they've been able to save people money. Now, there's also, when you get into this base marketplace, I know that it's been there for a while in dental, patient reminders. We know no-shows is one of the biggest problems. It's bad in insurance space, it's bad in the cosmetic. So have a system in place where you can have a technology. Some of your EMRs already have it. You know, when the patient hasn't returned to your office in 3 months and they've had a neuromodulator and it's time for them, send them a reminder. You could already have it done. When they have upcoming appointments, send it to them via email, send it to them by text. Many of you have it. When retreatments are due, and there's great software available. Solution Reach is one of those. It's done on a monthly subscription, and I only say that because I've used them in our former practice. And it allows you to do EBlasts, it allows you to send text messages. So if you want a solution to reach your client and your patient, use Solution Reach. Check them out. Check out some of the other ones, and if you don't use it in your EMR, check to see that you have it. Many times you don't even know what you don't have. And when now it comes time, you have to do an EBlast. So your EBlast should have your logo, your photo, your contact information, even a before and after photo, because that's what takes to the eye very quickly. And when you do your EBlast, when we send ours out, we have them where you can link back to our Twitter, our Facebook, our Instagram, our website if we're promoting something. Just like our latest news EBlast, we had a link back to enrolling into the MedResult Network program that we're doing right now. Upcoming events and procedural information. You already have your insurance-based clientele. So why not invertise, internal advertising, invertise to the people that you already have? It is the least expensive investment that you can do to the people you already have. And then if you have contacts, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram, use it. It's your best advantage. Incorporate skincare sales into your practice. You can choose a private label skincare line that can only be purchased in your office. It's a wonderful program. It allows people to see your name. They go to bed with you, wake up with you in the morning, incorporate skincare sales like PCA because you can get additional rebates, higher discounts by being a member of MedResults Network. If you're not a member taking advantage of it and you're buying their product, you're not getting the extra advantage and rebate. So with your eBlast, connect with patients when it's been 10 to 12 weeks since they last purchased your skincare product. This is part of entering for cash-based practices now. You can even use this if you're an insurance-based practice because everybody still needs it. Learn how long it takes to go through the product and then share with them that they're probably already out. Come in and pick it up on a retail, or we'll even ship it out. So how do you address cash paying patients now on your team, and who should handle it? Well, everybody should handle it. I try not to have the doctor handle the cash portion, but everybody should be explaining to the patient instead of them sitting in that room waiting for the doctor. They've sat in the reception area long enough. We put them into the room, have people go in and explain to them what's different, all the wonderful services that you provide in your practice, and allow them to understand everything that you do. Get rid of your magazines that have torn pages, that have Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt. Who cares anymore? And these are the same magazines that 50 people have been reading. They lick their tongue, they turn the pages, they've got all the germs. Now, I know you're probably shaking your head and saying this guy's crazy, but if you can share with me what good a magazine does versus having printed material, and not the free stuff that you get from the vendor, but printed material with good real estate on these that talks about everything that you do, you're missing the boat if you don't have it. Remember, all the free brochures that you get from vendors are the same free brochures that they can see in every other practice. So customize it for yourself and allow your marketing team to handle that. Actively, and I mean actively, offer them multiple personalized ways to finance their procedure and talk to your practice. You know, if you are a non-board certified physician, you may not be eligible for care credit. There are other ways to do it. Call us, talk to us. We offer a 0% patient financing for up to 21 months. I know it sounds crazy. It's 0% to you. It's 0% to the patient as long as they pay their monthly bill for anywhere up to 21 months. So you're not going to be paying the high cost of financing. Now, please understand, people feel that it's embarrassing if they have to ask. There's 3 questions you could ask or you could mention. We offer our procedures in cash, check, credit card, or financing. Would any of those options be interesting to you? And now you have opened the door for that patient to ask about financing, so they didn't necessarily have to ask you. So which office positions in your office really need to change? If you're entering the aesthetic cosmetic market, all of them. Because now you really have to switch hats and get your staff and yourselves to allow your insured patient to understand all of the wonderful procedures that you do. I'll share one last comment. We had, and I was a partner in a very large dermatology, cosmetic, facial plastic, body plastic, and cosmetic plastic gynecology practice here in South Florida. I had dermatology patients asking, did we know good plastic surgeons? And we had plastic surgery patients asking if we had we knew a good dermatologist. I felt severely embarrassed. Why? Because I knew that I didn't do a good job in allowing the outside public to know what we did. I urge you, make it everybody's responsibility to share each and every product you sell and every service that you perform. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes my presentation, and I thank you for taking time out of your busy day to listen to how you add elective treatments to insurance-based practices.
Jay, thank you so much for your presentation, and thanks to all of our attendees today for tuning in. If you do have a question, I'm going to open it up for a little bit of Q&A. We still have a couple minutes if anybody wants to stay on and ask Jay a question. If you do and you're muted, just raise your hand. You can do that on the GoToWebinar screen. and we'll get your question answered right now. If not, absolutely, you can fill out that survey, and Jay can contact you directly. So I'll open it up right now, and if anybody has a question, feel free to raise your hand and chime in. And it looks like nobody has any questions right now. So Jay, if it's okay with you, I'll say goodbye to all of our attendees today. I hope you can join us at our next presentation in September, and I hope to see you at one of our upcoming events. Thank you again, Jay. Thank you to our attendees, and have a great rest of your afternoon.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.